our second Charging Smart cohort session. Thank you everyone for joining us again. So I'll just get started. So the agenda for today, we will revisit our cohort structure and timeline, and then we'll do some quick introductions and some peer updates. And then I do have some general updates for y'all. And then we will revisit the bronze designation requirements, and then we'll get to the meat of the session, which is the planning category. And then we'll have some group discussion, and then I'll briefly go over the EV Ready building codes and standards, and then we'll talk about our homework assignment. Yeah. Okay, so of course we are on our second session. Today we'll be going over the planning category. If you missed the first session, the recording and the slides are available on the DFW Clean Cities webpage. And then within the following months, we will go over the rest of the categories, and we'll finish off in June with a session with 2 categories. Yeah. Okay, now we'll do some brief introductions and some peer updates. So I'll just call on people, and only one person per city has to give their input or their updates. So if you've had any progress on the onboarding documents, or if there are any updates on addressing actions or contacting the relevant departments, you can speak to that. Yeah, okay. Tanner from Arlington, would you like to go first?
Sure. Hey, good morning, everybody. Tanner Corsi with the City of Arlington. My title is Senior Data Financial Management Analyst, and I sit in the Transportation Department. So the last month has really been working with leadership to fully understand the program, talk about timelines, make sure that cross-collaboration needs with other departments are understood so that we can start reaching out to the other affected departments and start working towards some of the planning that goes into the different tasks and requirements. For our personal use on our team, I'll share my screen really quickly. I just created kind of a pared down version of all of the tasks that we have available to gain the points. And really kind of did a specific to City of Arlington, taking into consideration what our stated goals are. So our signed letter from our city manager or council is one of the kind of pre-application requirements. And then also mixed in with some of the things that we have completed or that I think would be easy for us to complete or just generally kind of foundational, I think, for the purpose of this program. So I've put those by category, added some notes, added some additional columns on just my own perceived level of difficulty, other departments that might be involved, and then if it aligns with our stated goals or not as a city. So I think from last time, I know that there are some department directors, some city and town managers. I report to a planning and programming manager who reports to a director who reports to a deputy city manager who reports to a city manager. So my chain of command is maybe a little bit different than some of the others here. So just making sure that I've got kind of clear and concise steps for all levels of that hierarchy to understand kind of what our goal is, what our purpose is, how we get to that bronze designation, but also conversation that I've been having recently is, is our goal really just to get to bronze designation, get our 80 points and wipe our hands and say we did it? Or is it really to build the foundational purpose of what the program is, which is to make our community more EV and EV infrastructure ready? So thankfully I've gotten the blessing that it is the latter. So that'll help me kind of decide which tasks we prioritize moving forward. But hopefully that's a good little recap of where we're at. I did meet with Encore already, Ian, and I'm blanking on who else was in that call. I believe it was his supervisor. And I think they shared with me that I was the first from this kind of cohort session to reach out or to have that one-on-one with them. I think Carolyn kind of talked about it last time, that there's not really a lot of at least financial collaboration or incentives available as it relates to kind of municipalities and the utility provider. But the conversation was great. It really offered an opportunity to create that connection. Helps me understand who my resources are at Encore, and then just kind of let them know what the purpose of the program is and how we might be able to collaborate and checking off some of the utility requirements in that category.
Okay, awesome. Well, sounds like you've been doing a lot of great work. Um, I'm just curious, have you been using the scorecard in the Google Drive, or have you kind of downloaded it and then used it in the Excel? I'm just curious.
Yeah, I downloaded a version for me to keep that's got this tab that I was just sharing,
Mhm.
with the intent to go back and update what's on the drive as we actually work through the different tasks and requirements. So hopefully that's an okay thing to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for sharing. Done a lot of great work. Um, okay. I'll just pick on someone to go next. Um, Brandon Wright from the City of Trophy Club. Would you like to share your updates or?
Sure. Yep. Yeah. Not unfortunately not nearly as impressive as Tanner's there for it. So, but we just started sharing some of the those actions kind of with staff here, kind of get an idea of what things we might have, what things we don't. So I still owe you the onboarding letter to get that part done for it, but otherwise, kind of just trying to kind of catch up a little bit and get started here as we continue to move forward. So.
No worries. We are only 1 month into the program, so you have plenty of time. Thank you for sharing. Okay. Manjul from the City of Midlothian, would you like to contribute?
Hello, sorry for being late here. And like we haven't done anything yet. It hasn't been discussed enough, so I can talk more about it. Again, like I'm in GIS, so I'm just doing this for now because we are short staff, and my director asked me to join this. But hopefully, a new senior planner who is starting next week, probably he will be joining to this course session from next month. Um, but again, like we haven't done much.
No worries. Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing. And then I believe the city manager's office, I believe that's Melissa from Louisville.
That is correct. Hi there. I can just say that we aspire to be Tanner when we grow up, that we would definitely like to achieve everything that he's already achieved before. So far, what we've done is in the course of, and I do apologize, my name is Melissa Canclini with the City of Louisville. I'm the executive assistant to the city manager, and this participation in Charging Smart was a direct result of our city manager's desire to be part of this. So she's tasked me with reaching out to a lot of our different departments and trying to all get on the same page as far as being able to get the designation for our city. So I think the biggest thing that it is offered thus far is an opportunity for all of the departments to come together and be able to discuss their necessary roles in participating in the designation. It's created and kicked off some really good internal ideas. Being a municipality, it is a little bit different because things that we can control are specific to city compared to, like, let's say a community and somebody else that could be a third party or something like that. But it has kickstarted a lot of great events where we are actually working on creating a GIS layer to publish to our website shortly of the public and private city-owned charging stations. So we are working on adding that layer in. So that's been kind of fun to get involved with and work on, and just knowing that there are tasks like that that can contribute to our point system. It's pretty exciting. So we have not made it to Tanner's level yet, but we are hopefully going to get there shortly.
Awesome. Well, that's great news. And you mentioned the GIS layer, and one of the criteria actions that I'll go over today relates to that. So
Great.
hopefully it's educational. But yeah, thank you for all your work.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll move over to Gerald. Would you like to contribute your
Of course,
updates?
yes. Good morning, everybody. I'm with the city of Richland Hills. Candace Edmondson is our city manager. She's was unable to make this morning's meeting, but I know she kind of was the one who kind of spearheaded this. And as of recently, I've been kind of brought on to hopefully kind of see it through to the finish line. But I have been taking the last couple of weeks to really kind of just catch up. I do know that Candace did complete all the onboarding documents to my knowledge with the commitment letter and the original survey. And since then, I've really kind of started reviewing the scorecard to see really what this entire, effort will entail. I have pushed out like basic information to all the different departments just to make them aware of this pursuit. I did have a meeting with Encore, not in regards to this at all, but that was about 2 weeks ago. And so I've got a contact and I'm waiting to hear back on our previous meeting on what I was requesting from them. And once I get that, I'm going to open it up for an additional conversation and regarding the smart charging project. I've also spent a little bit of time reviewing our current standards and zoning ordinances to see kind of what we already have in place. And I was surprised to see that we do have electric vehicle requirements for certain lots, for certain types of developments already in place. We don't have any permits associated with it or any checklists associated with it, so there is some work to be done. But I've really kind of just spent the last week or two um, better understanding exactly, what this will entail and all the necessary things that I'm gonna have to start working on here in the near future. But at least I think some of the foundational stuff is already in place.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, thank you for joining us and doing the program with us. And if you have any questions, just let me know.
Absolutely.
Well,
Thank you very much.
awesome. Thank you for sharing. Um, okay, I think last person here is Colby. Would you like to speak up? Or
Hi, yeah, Colby Frantz, Fleet Services Manager for City of Grand Prairie. So, yeah, nice to see that I have some other people on my level, which is just getting started with this. um, really, my focus is on fleet electrification. So I have some other people in our public health and environmental. I probably need to get them on board with this. I don't know if they were in the last meeting or not, since I wasn't here. But really, with the zoning and the community outreach and things like that, they're going to be the primary people for that, which I think they'd be on board with this, with all the other stuff they do for clean cities and COG. But as far as we're doing, we've we've met with Encore before, met with so many EV vendors, and we actually have an RFP getting ready to go out for to select a vendor for our electrification needs. It's one of our city council's top 10 priorities for the previous year and this year going forward as well. So we're definitely trying to get that out. With fleet electrification, we're trying to get as many of these as possible where they're public and fleet use. So, kind of two birds with one stone. So we're excited to see that, especially with us expanding to the south. We're trying to get more EV charging down there first, then kind of work our way back north where we already have some at our city hall and Epic. But yeah, happy to be on this. We'd love to get the designation, but even if we don't, we're just trying to find a better way to move forward and electrify.
absolutely. Well, thank you for sharing. That's awesome news. And thank you everyone for sharing. Yes, Lori?
Can I pick on Colby for a minute?
Mhm.
Colby,
No.
could you elaborate a little bit on the council? You said this is one of council's top 10 goals. Are you talking about just building out infrastructure on city property, or can you
So they
explain that a bit more?
set 10 priority items each year, and it's their actual published goal is very vague. It's pursue green energy and initiatives, but for us, what that means is EVs and provide
Gotcha.
EV charging.
Excellent. Thanks. And you said y'all have already put out an RFP and already selected a vendor to build.
We have not. We've drafted an RFP. It's with our purchasing department right now. It has not been published, but it should be shortly.
Great.
Okay, awesome. All right. Thank you everyone for your updates. Let me share my screen again. Okay. So now on to some general updates. So I already sent out an email about this, but I'm really excited to announce that we just created a new Teams channel for the Charging Smart cohort. So mostly this came about because I've seen from a lot of cities, they were having difficulty with either Google Drive or their IT department was restricting the use of Google Drive. So we thought that this would be a great opportunity to just have a Teams channel because us at COG, we are also very Microsoft heavy, so it would work well with us as well. So yeah, you don't have to use both platforms. You could use either or. So if you're already comfortable and kind of enmeshed in Google Drive, you can continue using that. But if you would prefer more Microsoft elements, then you can use the Teams channel that is available now. Everyone should have gotten an invitation email. So let me know if you haven't or you're having trouble accessing that. But yeah, the Teams channel it basically has all of the same folders, the files, the resources that is on the Google Drive. So there is a shared general channel, which will contain all of the resources for cities. So including the onboarding documents and all the program resources. And then each city will have their own individual private channel, which will only be accessible by your own city and whoever you add to it. So you can really use that channel for storing your scorecard if you would like. You could store other documents, but that is kind of like a private space for you. And then in other news, I know in April, there are a lot of upcoming Earth Day events. Some of my teammates are going to these events, but I would just like to say that if your city is hosting an Earth Day event, that you can earn points from the education and incentives category for hosting an informational booth, promoting EVs and the benefit of EVs. Basically, you just, have a table and you set out the educational materials about EVs, and then you can get 5 points for this category. And of course, for the category, you need 15 points overall. So yeah, I just wanted to mention that. Okay.
Hey, Carolyn,
Yeah.
quick question from City of Louisville. We've
Mhm.
got a big event that's planned right after Earth Day that kind of includes more things than just sustainability, but there are quite a bit of sustainable topics that are going to be there. Is it something that does it have to be a booth that's focused primarily or focused only on EVs, or can we have that in addition to the other sustainable things that we're trying to promote? Like if we're promoting zero waste and water conservation, so is it something that we could also have, EV information, and that would be considered, a completion of that event or that
I think
topic?
I would have to look at the program guide, but I think
Okay.
that sounds sufficient. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So I'll get back to you on that. I'll make sure to keep that in the back of my head. But yeah, thank you for your question. Okay, now just as a quick recap of the bronze designation point breakdown. So in the last cohort session, we went over the 4 prerequisites that add up to 35 points. And then from education and incentives, you need 15 points just from that category. And then the same thing with the planning category, which we'll go over today. You need 10 points overall. And then the last 20 points are discretionary, so you can do whatever you would like. And then overall, you need 80 general points in total, but of course, you can go over that. So now onto the planning category. This category really focuses on actions that local governments can take to establish a policy environment and a community-wide vision that supports EV adoption. So some criteria actions that this category would include would be addressing EVs and charging infrastructure in community plans like a specific area plan, a functional plan, comprehensive plans. You could also conduct a needs assessment to inform planning. So if you're thinking about like on a GIS map, you could see where all the current charging station locations are and then see where gaps are. And then the third bullet point kind of relates to what I just said. So mapping favorable locations for charging build out. And then lastly, the category could also include setting SMART goals to track progress over time. And I'll go over that in a little bit. So the first action we will cover is an action that I've recommended to a lot of cities who have already finished their self-assessment. And so I've recommended this as an action on their scorecard. So this first one is P1.1, which is creating a community-wide EV vision, and this is for 10 points. So if you complete this action, then you'll be sufficient for the whole category. Anyways, so for this action, you'll just create a document that will serve as your guide during planning and implementation of EV and EVSE integration into the community. So for your EV vision, you would want to ask yourself what you want to do, why you want to do it, and how you want to do it. And then this should really inform your goal setting and focus your efforts. And it should also reflect your community's unique voice and shared intention. And then for verification, you would just provide a link to a copy of or attach the completed community-wide EV vision to your scorecard. So now I'll go over some examples. Both these are from Colorado. I don't know why, but the first one is from the city of Fort Collins, Colorado, and they included this in their EV readiness roadmap, which would be considered a functional plan. So here they say Fort Collins will be a leader and innovator in supporting the use of EVs within the community's sustainable transportation system. Residences, businesses, and visitors to Fort Collins will choose EVs over conventional fuel vehicles. That sounds very ambitious, but it's just kind of what the vision they saw their city going towards. And then this other one is from the city of North Glen, and they called it their EV action plan. So they said North Glen will reduce greenhouse gas emissions and improve air quality through electric vehicle adoption and infrastructure that is inclusive, sustainable, cost-effective, and innovative. So it's really short and sweet. It's usually just a blurb, so a few sentences talking about what they want to do and how they want to integrate EVs into the community. And also this last one, they did include their EV vision on their city's website, on their own EV specific webpage, and you can get points for that. And so really with this action, they kind of killed two birds with one stone. So it's something that you can also do and something that I often recommend. So this next action that I'll go over is developing goals that are SMART, so specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-based that surround EV actions. So to address SMART goals in your planning documents, you would just ask these questions of the goals. So what will the goal accomplish? What data is available to evaluate current versus future conditions? So think back to the GIS maps, which specify where charging station locations are or where they could be. And then another question would be, does the staff have enough time and resources to achieve this goal? So make sure that it's attainable and that it's within the city's bandwidth. And then how does this goal align with the community's overarching vision and goals? And then is there a reasonable time frame to complete the goal or measure the progress? And overall, some EV initiatives may not be easily quantifiable, so don't worry about having to include specific data and numbers in your SMART goal if you don't want to. But overall, having clear objectives, implementation tasks, and timelines may be enough. So I do have an example. This is from Chicago's Climate Action Plan from 2022. So their overarching goal is to enable 2,500 new public EV charging locations by 2035. So they're very specific with the data and the numbers that they would like to see. And then over here, they conclude that this should have a positive impact on greenhouse gas emissions. And then they also specify who is responsible for completing these goals. So I think this is the Chicago Department of Transportation, the Chicago Transit Authority, and then the Department of Planning and Development. And then within this paragraph, they really talk about how EVs reduce street level air pollution, and also they reduce greenhouse gas emissions. And they also focus on how a lot of underserved communities don't have as much access to EV charging stations. So that's something that they will prioritize. And then the next criteria action that I'll be going, yeah, Lori?
Sorry, Carolyn, I was going to just jump in and flag to everybody that we also have some discussion. It's at the regional level, so it's not at the city level, so it's not in here as examples, but we have some discussion that gets to some, they're soft goals, they're probably not SMART goals, but it is region specific, and it talks about the connection to ozone non-attainment. It talks about where our region currently is in terms of EV charging station deployment and how much we need to grow if we are to keep pace with expected EV adoption in our existing long-range transportation plan, which is Mobility 2045. We're right now going through and updating that for Mobility 2050. That'll be put out well, it'll be adopted most likely in the summer, but the draft plan is posted. And so that could give you some additional starting points based on what we've done kind of at the higher regional level. So I'll be happy to put that in the chat. And that's another thing that we could link to in the Teams channel for y'all to take a look at. So just wanted to share.
Mm-hmm. All right. Thank you, Lori, for adding that. Yeah. Okay, so the next action that we'll go over is P2.1, which is identifying locations and the frequency of charging infrastructure placement. This is for 5 points. So on a GIS map, you could identify suitable potential locations for new EV chargers. This could be city-owned land or on private land. Of course, this is all hypothetical, but realistically, if you wanted to build on private land, you would need to collaborate with those business owners. And then really this is to identify gaps in access to EV charging or identify where new chargers would make sense. So if you're a more rural city, or if you're a city with more rural parts, they may not have as much access to EV charging. So you would probably look to those locations to install EV chargers. Or if you're a bigger city and you have like a highway going through your city, you may think about planning on having DC fast chargers along the highway corridor, just for example. And so you could consider factors like population density, travel patterns, existing electrical infrastructure, and future development plans to help you select these potential locations. And I just wanted to shout out these 2 tools. So the AFDC station locator that is from the Department of Energy. And so the station locator provides data on pre-existing charger locations, so you can see exactly where chargers are in your city. And then this grid up tool was actually made by a Charging Smart partner, I think the Rocky Mountain Institute, so RMI. And so this tool is like a massive map that shows population data from census tracts, the total charging ports in certain areas, electricity peak load levels, and daily energy consumption. It's an awesome tool, and I link to it on a slide later on down the road, but I highly suggest that y'all look at that tool. And then for verification, you would just provide a link or attach the map showcasing the location of existing or proposed charging infrastructure in your planning document. And this is an example of potential charging locations in Monroe, Louisiana. So Louisiana Clean Fuels, our sister Clean Cities Coalition, worked with the city of Monroe to help determine the best locations for new chargers, including receiving community feedback through this tool. And the tool is called My Social Pinpoint. So, yeah, as you can see, community members really like the idea of having DC fast chargers along highways, along here. And Texas has already done this when they were, scouting out potential locations for NEVI stations. So this is a link towards that interactive map. So if you, zoom in on your city, you can see exactly where community members really wanted new charging station locations. And I believe you can also leave comments. So those are really fun to read as well and interesting. Anyways, okay, I think this is the last action that I'll go over, but it's super simple. So P 3.2, for 5 points, you could promote the co-benefits of EVs. So that includes the positive public health benefit, along with reduced noise and pollution benefit. So this is an action that you can include in both functional plans and comprehensive plans. But overall, you would just include language about the common benefits of EVs. So that could include no tailpipe emissions, that EVs are relatively quiet compared to a traditional internal combustion engine vehicle. And then also that the aspect of energy independence, as electricity is commonly domestically sourced, especially from renewable energy like wind and solar, which Texas really leads the nation on. And so that's something we can brag about, I guess. And then also that Texas grid generation sources will continue to get cleaner over time, as after the installation cost, it's really cheap to continue generating that source. Yeah, so we have an example from, again, Fort Collins, Colorado, from their EV readiness roadmap. So they kind of list everything that I just said. So they talk about how EVs have little to no tailpipe emissions, how they have much lower greenhouse gas emissions than conventional vehicles. They can use cleaner sources of electricity, such as solar or wind, and that the cost to charge an EV is much cheaper than the cost to fuel a conventional vehicle, and that EVs require very little maintenance, so you'll never have to do another, $60 oil change. Anyways, so that's an example of what Fort Collins did in regards to that action. And then here is where I list all of the resources that I may have mentioned in the prior slides. So these are also in the program guide. And by the way, the program guide, IREC, our program developer, is still revising the program guide. So the newly revised version is not out yet, but I do have the program guide available both on the Google Drive and the Teams channel. So yeah. And then here are some more resources. And again, I would highly suggest going to the AFDC station locator and looking at this grid up tool. Okay, now for some group discussion. So far, do y'all have any questions, comments, or concerns? And has your city already mentioned EVs or EVSE in your functional or comprehensive plans? Yeah, so if y'all have any questions or anything to add, now might be the time, if you'd like. And if not, no worries, I can move on. Yes, Lori?
Carolyn, could you clarify to everybody, you mentioned that the program guide is currently posted, but IREC is making updates. So what updates are they still making, and how much, just in case anybody's wondering, should I use the current one or should I wait for the updates? I don't know how meaningful the updates would be to the cities versus updates that perhaps have been directed from above that cities may or may not agree with.
Yeah, that's a good question. So right now, IREC is taking out a lot of language that previous executive orders have now been disencouraged, if I'm using the right language to describe this. Yeah, so they're still taking out the language about the EVs for all, which were originally points designated for targeting benefits to underserved or low-income communities. So I think they're still taking away that language, and then language like equity and, you know, that sort of thing. So if you are using the program guide that I have in the Teams channel or the Google Drive, please just ignore the language that is supposed to be gone soon.
Or just be aware that you don't necessarily need to strive to get the points associated with the EVs for all in order to get the designation. As a city, you may still believe in Justice 40 and equity and all of those types of things, in which case the existing program guide probably is useful, and the updated program guide may not provide as much resource as you'd like. If your city is not inclined to focus much on Justice 40 and equity, just kind of breeze over that. But the updated guide's not necessarily going to add a lot of resources, right? So if they were to use the existing program guide, that would be just as useful.
Yeah, absolutely. If you would still like to involve those initiatives, that's absolutely like commendable, but it's just not a requirement anymore. So that's why they're taking it away from the program right now. But IREC should be done revising the program guide soon, and I'll let y'all know when that comes out, and I'll update all the folders and everything with that program guide. And it should be publicly available again, so you can just go to their website as well. Yeah, okay. Any other questions or comments, anything? If not, we're going, yeah.
Sorry,
Lori?
I have one more. Did you say,
No worries.
Carolyn, the GIS mapping is part of this planning
Yes.
thing? So I would definitely encourage everybody to take a look at what Jocelyn put in the chat around the Texas EV charging plan. Jocelyn, I don't know if you want to speak on this right off the top of your head, if you recall how many comments have been placed on that map that are in our region. But I feel like y'all would be able to leverage that and be like, look, we've internalized this information that happens to fall within our city's boundary that was on this TxDOT map, and we're taking this to heart, and that gives you a pretty good jump start in terms of planning, and that's based on public engagement. And then there is a map that we have developed that I'm going to try to track down real fast so I can share my screen and just show it to y'all in case you're interested in following suit. But in the meantime, I'm going to stop talking, Jocelyn, in case you want to jump in, and then Carolyn, keep going.
Yeah, on that map, there's over 1,000 comments in the whole state from early 2022 to now. I think there's 300 something just in our region. And they sent us over the data, and I think you can ask them for the layer. They'd probably, TxDOT would probably send you the layer if you want to have that for your own mapping. But it has lots of data. It has, well, most of it has data on where the comment was left from, like the IP address of the person that left the comment, so you can tell if they're like a resident of the city or someone passing through, which we found has been really helpful in the analysis we've been doing. Yeah, there's lots of comments on there. Just scrolling around, I definitely saw some in the cities of the people on the call. So hopefully that'll be helpful. You can make a map like the one Carolyn showed from our other Queen Cities Coalition.
Okay, I found this map that I would like to share. If I can share my screen, Carolyn.
Absolutely,
Sorry.
yeah.
So I'm just excited about this map because I didn't even know we had it until like 2 days ago. So y'all have to forgive me for my exuberance here. But we have mapped, if you've seen maps of our region and how many charging stations we have in the region, you may know that there's a lot and it gets very cluttered very quickly. But our staff has gone through and broken the entire what happened? Broken the 12 county metropolitan planning area down into hexagons. And I think we just deleted the duplicate map. I think that's what happened. So it's a little bit easier to see, like in this part of Dallas, there's 83 plugs already versus over here, there's only one plug in this hexagon. So if you like this approach, our team is willing to document exactly how we did this. You probably would want your hexagon at a city level to be on a smaller geographic scale, but it can be a good way for those of you who already have quite a few charging stations within your boundary to kind of hone in on the gaps a little bit more cleanly, perhaps, than if you're just looking at each individual charging station separately. So just wanted to share that. If you would like that, just let us just drop that into the chat, and then we'll connect with our GIS team and have them document their methodology there.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, Lori, for sharing that. I wasn't aware of that map, so I'll have to explore that a little bit more.
It's new.
Yay. Okay, awesome. So if there's no more questions or comments or anything, I'm going to talk about something that's very exciting, and that is EV Ready codes. Okay, so just before I get into the IECC code appendices, I just wanted to recap the 3 classifications. So first we have EV capable spaces. So those spaces include the electrical panel capacity and conduit. And then the EV ready spaces include everything involved with the EV capable space, as well as the fully installed circuit. And then the EVSE space is just a charging station. So overall, the cost to install EV-ready infrastructure post-construction is about 4 to 6 times more expensive compared to installing these spaces at a time of new construction. And that leads us into these EV-ready building codes. So about a year ago, in May of 2024, the International Energy Conservation Code updated their code to include appendices, optional appendices that mandate minimum parking space requirements for EV capable, EV ready, and EVSE spaces, as well as system capacity and circuit capacity requirements. So the 2 appendices are commercial and residential. So for commercial buildings and then residential buildings. And so the reason why I bring this up is because this will help adopting these appendices will help your community be more EV ready. You can earn points towards Charging Smart designation. And there are also significant cost savings to facility owners and utilities for including these new constructions versus having to retrofit. So yeah, I won't really get into this, but this is something that is within the IECC code. This is for commercial buildings. So right here we have the building classification and then what percentage of EVSE, EV ready, and EV capable spaces are mandated for those building classifications. So I just wanted to have this here within the slide deck. And then now on to Texas cities who have already adopted EV ready requirements. So I believe Austin is still in their voting stage on whether or not they would like to adopt these EV ready appendices into their code. But other cities like Dallas, Farmers Branch, Louisville, and San Antonio have already adopted their own EV ready requirements. And then since Louisville is on the call, I just wanted to shout y'all out. So for residential and commercial buildings, Louisville has mandated that if you have more than 100 parking spaces, then you must also have 5% EV ready spaces. So that is awesome. And you can earn points in the regulatory category. And I believe I also put that on y'all's scorecard as well. So that's very cool. And then this just dives a little bit deeper into what the city of Dallas and Farmers Branch, what their specifications are for the percentage of EV ready and EV capable spaces are in regards to the total parking spaces. So I thought that was just good information to have. So that concludes our talk about EV ready codes. I wanted to bring that up because we didn't get to it in the last cohort. But yeah, I think if your city adopts these codes, it would really help with regional conformity and stability in that way for builders. Yeah, okay, so that brings us to the end. Your homework for this session is to complete onboarding documents if you haven't. And then if you haven't already, you could possibly continue addressing these prerequisites and then also begin addressing which planning actions you would like to complete. So yeah, thank you everyone for joining. And if there's any other questions, comments, anything, feel free to speak up or yeah, Jocelyn.
Yeah, real quick while everyone's still here, I've talked to almost everyone on this call about CFI Community before, but that's our $15 million grant to build EV chargers on public property. So perfect for all of you guys if you're looking to actually implement some of these things and build a real charger for free. And we have been kind of in a holding pattern waiting for what the federal government was going to say about it. But we just found out Tuesday, that we have the majority of that $15 million funds obligated. So we will be able to actually be building the chargers for sure. We will build quite a few with that. And lots of you guys have already filled out the survey that we sent out to get feedback from local governments and gather interest on like locations and things that you'd like us to build. I just sent that out for anybody that hasn't filled that out. If you're interested in this program at all, please fill that out and let us know. Actually, fill it out even if you're not interested, so we know to leave you alone. But that's a great way to, like I said, implement some of this work that Carolyn's been helping you guys with. We'd love to work with you guys. Like lots of you guys have done so much for us already. And if you have any updates, please let us know anything you're thinking. Like if as you're going through this, maybe you have more ideas or you narrow down your locations or think of a new one. Just let us know. We're hopefully moving along with this pretty soon. So we love to work with you guys.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, Jocelyn, for plugging that. And in the follow-up email after this cohort session, I'll make sure to provide those links as well. But yeah, thank you everyone for joining us today. And I'll see y'all in the next cohort session. Yeah, Lori?
Yeah, Carolyn, was it Melissa from Louisville? No, was it Gerald at Richland Hills? Did you say that no, what are my notes? Somebody said that they were surprised y'all already have requirements in your building standards for new construction.
Yeah, that was for Richland Hills, and it was for our parking and loading requirements. We do require a certain amount of electric vehicle spaces to be provided for certain developments that will require more than 50 spaces or more.
Great. Would you be willing to share a copy of y'all's document on that or the language or something for others that maybe are exploring that, and then we can compile that with some of the other examples that Carolyn shared?
Absolutely. Yeah, they are pretty straightforward and rudimentary, but absolutely.
Thank you.
Awesome. I love that we are having new developments. Okay. Well, if there are no other questions, comments, I'll give y'all back 9 minutes of your day. So yeah, thank you everyone for coming. And I'll see y'all in the next cohort session. All right, bye.